I'm gonna say it, 90% of anime-based games suck. But why? As a huge anime fan, it sucks to see how they get treated when it comes to the video games. Games like Jump Force and the new Jujutsu Kaisen game all failed. I might have an answer for you, but let's talk about why this happened. Before we talk about what went wrong, first we have to look at what went right. Not all anime games are bad. For example, you have games like Dragon Ball FighterZ and Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Strikers, and that's just the recent ones. Games like Budokai Tenkaichi 1, 2, and 3, and all the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games did this all way back in the day, except for Ninja Storm 4 of course. All before anime really became mainstream here in the West. I'm talking about the PS2 to PS3 kind of days. And for the most part, they were all pretty successful and well received and set the foundation for future anime games, proving that if done correctly, anime games can become successful here in the West. So now that we know that it's worked before and it can work again, why hasn't it been working? Why have so many games been falling flat on their face and just straight up failing? I think I have 3 reasons for this. The first reason is just the games are getting repetitive, if not just straight up lazy. And what I mean by this is that almost every anime game that comes out just happens to be a fighter game. Not only are they all fighter games, but they're not bringing anything new to the table. Unlike the games that I mentioned before, who kind of started the movement, these games don't bring any new ideas, bring any new looks, they don't bring anything new at all. Quite frankly, they're all just reskins of the last. And don't get me wrong, some of my favorite moments in like anime history are probably some of the fight scenes. So it's not that I don't like the fighting, it's just that it's the same thing every time we get a new game. One of the more recent games that came out, My Hero Ultra Rumble, it wasn't necessarily a good game, but I don't think it was a bad game either. It was still a fighting game, but they at least tried to do something different. They tried to take a fighting game and give it a new idea, whether that's just a battle royale, that's something that we don't see a lot in the anime games. While I can respect them for trying to put their own twist on the fighting style genre, why does it have to be a fighting style game? Just imagine this, right? You hear about a new Tokyo Ghoul game coming out, and you're kind of doubtful, but Tokyo Ghoul's your favorite anime, so you get your hopes up a little bit. And then you look at the preview, you look at the game trailer, and it's not a fighting game. It's a single player story mode based game. It's not like they need to come up with a new story, they can literally just recreate the manga, but in video game form. Which means the hardest part of making any game, the brainstorming, is already gone. They've done that for you already. You don't have to make up a story. You don't have to make up the characters. It's all plain and set for you right there. And I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be fighting in the game. Of course there's going to be fighting in the game. But it doesn't have to solely be based around fighting only. This isn't Mortal Kombat, but anime version. No, this can be its own separate game. Spoilers for this Tokyo Ghoul scene if you haven't read it yet. I remember reading that scene where Kaneki was being tortured by Jason, and he broke free and he beat the living crap out of that man. I don't know about you guys, but that's the kind of fighting that I want. I want to go back and be able to relive those moments where I read something or I watched a dope fighting scene and thought to myself, damn, that'd be cool if I could do that. And before y'all say it, I know games like Demon Slayer, they have their own little, quote unquote story mode, but I'm not talking about just fighting from one level to the next. You go from stage 1 of fighting, you beat the character, and you click on the little bubble to go to stage 2. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a fully fledged game that has a story mode, and that's a real game, not something that I could go into the arcade and play for a couple of quarters. Some games do try to do this a little bit, so I'll give credit where it's due to an extent, but it blows my mind that gaming industry studios just aren't trying to take advantage of this. Anime already has a whole dedicated fan base, a die-hard fan base, whether it's for the better or it's for the worse of the anime. Think about all the little My Hero Academia kids that are dancing in a circle and singing songs together. They get bullied to no avail. They still do it. You know why they still do it? Because they're dedicated. Alright, they are die-hard fans of the anime. As cringy as it is, I gotta give them respect for it. I gotta respect that no matter how much they get bullied, they're still doing it because that's how much they like what they have. So imagine if gaming devs took this fan base and they made a good quality game for it. If these people are willing to go in public and act the way they do and say the stuff that they say, by gosh darn it, I bet you they will buy this good game. So they already have the equation done for them. They already have the fan base that's dedicated, and they have the ideas and characters from the anime that's already been made. So what's going on from A to B to mess up the final conclusion? Why can't they add those two together and make an easy game for them and a good game for us? And I know a lot of you feel the same way. Arena fighters aren't bad. I don't mind arena fighters. Like I said before, some of the other games, they actually did it very well. They pioneered arena fighters, but ever since they pioneered that, nobody has even attempted to do anything outside of that other than some odd outliers. Just imagine with how popular space games are right now and how dry the content in the games are for that specific genre. Just imagine if we got a Cowboy Bebop game, a good Cowboy Bebop game. A great game based off a great anime, especially when that genre specifically is very popular right now, would send shockwaves throughout not even just the anime community, but the whole gaming community as well. And this brings me into my other reason. The left hook, the right hook, the other double heavy hitter, the graphics. Why in tarnation am I paying $60 for a game that looks like it came out on my mom's phone? These games, right here, $60. And you know what they all have in common? They look like hot garbage. How are you going to make a game for a community that thrives off of what good animation looks like, but then you make it look like a dumpster fire? And it's weird because you see everybody put their foot down when it comes to an anime changing its style up and it looks bad, like Seven Deadly Sins when it had a whole downgrade. Oh boy, they were not getting away with that one. But when it comes to the video games, it's just the Wild West. I kid you not, if you go back and you look at some of those older games that I said before, and then you come and you look at some of the newer games today, nothing has been improved. They still look like old PS2 to PS3 games, and that just seems to be what they've settled for. They're perfectly fine looking like that. Even Budokai Tenkaichi from 1 to 2 had a major visual improvement. And you know what's crazy? Those games started releasing back in 2005, and we're in 2024, and the games, they might look slightly better, if any better at all. And quite frankly, it's downright embarrassing. You might as well take your glove off and slap me in the face because it's utterly disrespectful. You take the same graphics from 2005 to 2010 and you add a different shade of lighting onto it, maybe just a little drop of sweat, and you expect me to pay $60 for it. Crazy. And I understand they can't have it looking exactly like the anime. That's like millions and millions of, like, it looks beautiful. I understand. But can we just get something that looks okay? Something that looks good at least? Maybe I could deal with the subpar graphics if we had a good story. Or maybe I could deal with it being just another fighter game if we had good graphics. But that's a hard maybe. And so far, we don't have either one of them. We have the same old stuff with the same old graphics. And there's some games out there that don't look bad by any means. And I guess you could consider them kind of like an anime type of game. But I'm talking about games specifically based off an anime, like the Demon Slayer games and stuff like that. And with all that being said, I want to move on to the third and final point, the pay to win. This might be one of, if not the biggest reason why a lot of the games fail, is because for some god reason, a lot of them are just pay to win. You see this especially a lot nowadays in games in general. It's not only in the anime games. That's still not a good excuse on why so many anime games are pay to win. You'll see this a lot in the fighter games, which we discussed before is a big majority of the anime game content in general. And if you don't know what pay to win means, it basically means that whoever has more money has a better chance at the game. The more money you put into a game, the greater advantage that you have compared to another player who maybe didn't put as much money into the game. Stuff like loot boxes and packs that let you get guns out of them, as we've seen in some games before in the past. Or if it's just characters stuck behind paywalls. Sadly, a majority of the time, it's going to be that second one there. You'll see a lot of these PvP fighter games come out, especially for anime games, where they'll come out with a certain roster of characters, and then later on DLCs will be released that you have to pay for that has the newest characters in it. Now this is somewhat of a gray area because a lot of people don't consider stuff like that to be pay to win, but in my opinion, when you lock something that's very vital to the game behind a paywall, whether it be a gun or a character, I definitely think that's a pay to win aspect, especially when a character in these PvP type of games can become very meta, and we've seen it time and time before. And I don't want to have to pay for a game and then turn around and have to buy a DLC or just pay to unlock a character. And especially in today's economy, even being a student, I have to really debate whether a $60 let alone a $70 game is actually worth it. And when I see them talking about having paid DLCs in the game, or just pay to win aspects in general, it really turns me away from it. Because what am I paying $60 to $70 for to begin with? I understand when it comes to cosmetics or maybe just in-game type of DLCs, more like add-on type of stuffs. But when it comes to these anime games and they're locking vital stuff behind paywalls, I'm not going to buy the game. I refuse to buy the game. Maybe when it goes on sale for like 20 bucks, I'll buy the game. But at full price, I can't do it, especially when they have like 5 DLCs out. I don't want to point any fingers, but it really just makes me not want to get it. I think think that might be a big reason on why a lot of these games flop, is because people don't want to keep forking over money when they've already paid a good deal of money just to get the game. Alright, I think that's all I gotta say. Honestly, I think if they just touched up on these areas and just made a decent game where they actually really tried, we would have a great game on our hands. Maybe you don't agree with me on why these games aren't doing as good as they should be, but hopefully you can agree that these games aren't doing as good as they should be. I didn't make this video for people who like these games to get mad at me. If you like the game, then man, I'm glad you like that game. I made this video more specifically to hopefully bring attention to what's been going on in like the anime gaming space right now, because I just see so much wasted potential going on, and it just hurts my soul as an anime fan. And if you don't agree with me on why I said I think they're failing, then at least let me know why you think they're failing down below. Even if you did agree with me, maybe you have more reasonings that I didn't touch up on. And that's all good, because at the end of the day, we both want the same thing. We all want good games to have fun and be able to play. Whether that's more JJK games or it's a dope Demon Slayer game. Hopefully maybe a Tokyo Ghoul game, but the point still stands. With all that being said, I hope you all enjoy the video. I'll see y'all next time. Talk to me down in the comments below. Maybe like the video if you want. But y'all have a great day, and once again, maybe a good night.